Hello and welcome to Game Over Video Chat here on twitch.tv/ live action roleplay, where we are doing a live playtest of Inhuman Conditions with the game designer. Tommy, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Hey, Ryan. I'm Tommy Maranges. I'm the co-creator of Inhuman Conditions and Secret Hitler. And I don't know, I'm really grateful to be here. Thanks for helping me out with this, Ryan.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming here. I'm going to introduce the rest of our players. I'm going to start off with Case. Say hi, Case.
Hi, Case. Well, hello, Internet. My name is Case, or Poisel, or whatever. I play games and I write about games and I write games. I'm just excited to be here and to be playing this. Sounds super exciting. I have read a little bit, but ready to jump right in.
All right, next we go to a very familiar face, Renee. Say hi, Renee.
Hi, Renee. I assumed you were continuing that joke because I was literally fighting with my internet cable just then. Hi, I'm Renee Ritchie, also known as Hedgie Cleric. I am, in fact, a fairly familiar sight here, but I always love coming back because Ryan's awesome.
And next we go to Blythe and Pupper. Say hi, Blythe.
Oh. Hi, Blythe. Hi, Luna. They are knocking my computer over. There's two of them. Hello. I am being overrun by dogs, which I guess means I'm not actually a replicant, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, the first person to declare I'm definitely a human is always a human, for sure.
Yeah. Good to know from the game designer. Next we go to...
I have skin. That is mine.
Yeah. Next we go to Bria. Say hi, Bria.
Hi, my name is Bria Nicole. I'm very much human and I love having skin. I'm a storyteller and narrative designer. And yeah, it's always a pleasure to be on here.
All right, and I am your host, Ryan Omega, he, him, and I love being able to play games that many people either don't know or have a new kind of system to it. I first played this game at Gen Con 3 years ago when Tommy was on Gen Con Live, and he was showing off this new game, which had even less components. But we were playing this game, and I remember distinctly that no one could win this game until the last 3 minutes. That's what I remember.
It's hard playing a prototype and trying to figure out live how to be a normal human. You did very well under the additional pressure of this isn't complete and also everyone is watching.
Yeah. So what the aim for today is that this is a live play test for Tommy. So while we're going to be playing the games, we're going to be doing it in a method that is most helpful for research and just trying to figure out if something works. And so, Tommy, if you can address that for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So Inhuman Conditions, we kickstarted it at the end of, boy, timelines are screwy now, huh?
Yeah.
2018. And we were on literally the last boat out of China in February 2020 to get the game to backers. So we fulfilled the Kickstarter. And then game nights became illegal and no one has played it. So we put together an online version of the game, but the game can be kind of difficult to learn for a 5-minute game. So we've put together like a quick start guide for online play because we want it to be as easy as possible for people to learn the game, even if they're not in person. And even though things have loosened up some places, now that we have lots of people who have started playing with friends, like who are not like physically present, we want that as easy as possible. So we're testing a quick start guide that we've put together, rather than having to like learn from the rules, where the rules are all technically correct, but writing the rules for a game that you've been working on for a long time is hard. I remember being so burned out with working on the game that when it came to the rule writing, I was like, this is what you do. Don't fuck it up here. It's on you. And now we're going back and fixing that. So what we want to know tonight is this document that I've sent around, like, is it possible to learn the game and understand the different moving parts from this document? Part of the hard part about learning a game like this often is each of the gears feels weird and you have to learn several different gears, but once they interlock, they click. So there's so much upfront explanation. What are the ways we can scaffold that that aren't boring, but that still allow you to learn how things interact rather than just in isolation?
All right. So what we did before we started was divide our players into teams, and that can change at any time based off of what is needed in the playtest. So the first team that we assigned is Blythe and Bria. Now, have you two had the ability to read it, and do you feel comfortable starting to try to run this game?
Yeah, I think so.
I definitely read it. I'm usually a little bit better once I start playing, so I think I should, like, once it starts going, I should pick it up a lot easier.
Okay, then. Oh, go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So I think what's most helpful for me, I think that's great. Let's start. Jump right in. If you have questions, feel free to say them out loud. If someone else spots the answer to the question, that's also really helpful for me. So I'll like give it a few uncomfortable beats. You're not in trouble. You didn't ask a stupid question. That's just me waiting to see if anyone else chimes in can find the answer somewhere else. And I'll write down the questions you have, and that'll help me patch the guide up.
All right. So for all those who are not in the active play zone, we'll turn off our cameras, but keep your mics on in case you're able to suggest where anything within the rules. All right. As soon as I turn off my camera, go ahead and start playing.
Do we know who's the investigator and who's the suspect?
Oh yes.
Yeah, that was one question I had.
I was gonna have you determine between the both of you how you wanted to do that. Otherwise, I could assign it.
I'll pick suspect. I'll be suspect.
You'll be suspect? Okay.
Perfect.
But do we have cards or anything we're drawing? That was one thing I wasn't sure about.
Yes.
So in the PDF, as a substitution for cards, there are designations of card-like things later in that PDF, and in order to determine the randomization, you roll a die.
Okay, I see that now. I wasn't quite sure, but I see it now.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Let me... I'm rolling my dice. Okay.
Okay. I'm just rereading a few of it to make sure that I have it. And we're not doing the additional rules just yet, right? We're keeping it just like the first version.
Yes.
Okay.
So the idea is that for this playtest, we're going to go in order of that PDF. And subsequent versions we will tackle later.
Okay.
Do we have a timer?
Good question. I can be a timer, or do you want this timer on screen? I think I might have to finagle things a little bit, but I can probably do that.
I have an idea.
Sure.
Is somebody that's not playing can be the timer, because there's supposed to be like a you have 2 minutes remaining. You have 1 minute remaining. Kind of like, from what it sounded like from reading, that there's like some sort of like cue about like your time as it's going down to let people know.
Mm-hmm.
I can run the timer through my mic. That's pretty easy to do.
Oh yeah, you have the preset timer, right, Tommy?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm just looking to see if there's a link if there's a mention. Oh, so for the first, actually for the first round, we'll just use a standard, just a 3-minute timer.
Okay.
So that gets mentioned on the investigator side. So Bria, if you want to run that timer so you know how much time you have.
Okay.
But I don't think you'll need narrative beats for this first round.
Cool. Okay. And then Blythe, would you mind just rolling also for the penalty? Since we both see that.
I don't think I have to roll for the penalty, do I?
No, the penalty for the first interview is the same for.
That's what it looks like.
No, the penalty for the first. It's always the same one. It looks like.
That's what it looks like.
Okay.
It's always the same one.
Okay, then I think I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. Hi, could you please tell me your name and occupation?
Yes, my name is Blythe, and I am a producer.
Okay, how did you get into that?
Well, I send a lot of emails and make a lot of connections. And through those emails and connections, I have managed to get some work and talk to people. And that's how I get my jobs.
Producing is such a specific job. I feel like there's no kid that goes, I want to be a producer. Was that you when you were growing up?
I really enjoy producing. I also really love directing, writing, and acting. I find all of them very fun.
So what was your first acting role like, actually?
Well, I have been acting today through this.
Okay. Could you please tell me, I guess, a bit more about the acting? Are you someone who's has a lot of stage fright, would you say?
I don't have a lot of stage fright. No, I really enjoy getting up on stage when I can. I always get nervous, but I think the nerves mean I think the nerves help you get into it better. Otherwise, you will think you're going to be perfect, and then you will usually fail. Like those nerves kind of make sure that you do a good job, as long as they're not like paralyzing you.
It seems like you're pretty outgoing, just that you can embrace that kind of energy like that. Are you probably like the most outgoing person, you would say, in your like friend circle?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I am actually quite shy and much more outgoing over the internet and emails than I am.
Has that always been the case?
Yes.
Could you, I don't know, like, are there any kinds of like stories where you had to kind of break out of your shell? Especially because like shy people going into acting, I feel like that's such a conflicting thing.
Yeah, today I had to, through my work, I have to email a lot of people or call a lot of people that I don't like and I don't love calling or talking to people that I don't super know, but I have had to overcome that and just kind of know that this is for a goal and know this is for my work, and then just kind of do it, and having that clear-cut goal helps.
That was my timer. So I believe I give you one last statement, or do I go ahead and admit that you are like what I think you are regardless?
So where are you looking to find that answer?
I'm looking through the final question of the first interview. One final question, but first read this reminder to the suspect. Okay, I'm going to ask you one final question. This is your final chance to pay any outstanding penalties. If you have no outstanding penalties, either because you're human or because you're a robot in compliance with your restriction, you may answer however you choose. Suspects who fail to perform their outstanding penalties, either because they have more than one outstanding or because they simply forget, should visibly malfunction, as the strain causes a failure cascade in the robot brain. Tell me about your favorite childhood memory.
You know, something that makes me really excited and something I really enjoy is that Batgirl is getting a movie and Leslie Grace got cast.
Thank you for your time. Let's see. Yeah, I you're a robot. Sorry.
Can I say what
That was adorable.
me to do? Can I say what the card tells me to do?
Mm-hmm.
It says that I only discuss things that happened today. Literally. I can't discuss anything else.
That was what I thought you got too, which is why I was just like, oh. Tell me more.
Oh,
So I was trying to put everything in the present.
I think because one thing I realized from reading is you could lie, you could break your protocol, you could talk about things that happened before today, but just at some point you then had to answer a question with only 5 words.
Yes, and I thought answering a question with 5 words was harder.
Oh, that's fair.
Oh.
I picked to just follow the terms of being a robot. But it was fun. It was a fun challenge for me to try and figure out how I could apply today to my life.
That's like a very
definitely
specific
interesting thought exercise.
That's a
Yeah,
very
like-
specific jam to end up in too, right? It's just like when Bria, when you asked that question, I was like, oh, okay, we're done here. Like,
Yeah.
that was a very good last question for that
was-
specific round. Did you ask that because you had a sense like, oh, we sure do seem to be afraid of the past?
Yeah, I was I think that was one of the robot descriptions just from reading the packet that stuck out to me the most. So I forget which question kind of like sparked it, but I was like, I think it was like from Jump actually, when I was like, oh, how'd you get into producing? And you were like, I do many things in producing, or something along those lines. I was just like, okay.
Fun though. Like I had a good time trying.
Yeah, it was really fun.
For sure.
So do you feel like you both understand how patient robots work and you would be comfortable adding new constraints in to the game? Or would you want to play, like, let's say you're going to switch places even and Blythe, you were going to interrogate. Would you be comfortable interrogating someone who could be what you just were or something different?
Yeah, I think it'll still take a couple times to really get like exact flow, but I think I'd be
Totally.
comfortable trying to be the investigator and ask the questions and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I do actually have one question specifically for this particular iteration. I assume the expectation is for somebody to have read the entire rule document before playing, right?
Not necessarily. So it's written in a way where if you just start at the top and read it straight through, it'll work. We're trying to minimize the amount of overhead work precisely because, like, having read the whole rule document, it's helpful. I hope it's helpful to have read the whole rule document and Case's contributions so far have been very good, which makes me think like, yes, it does not later reading does not interfere with that first round, but my hope is that if you just start at the top and follow through, like you won't have to go past the first round until you're ready.
Yeah,
That's a
fair.
great question.
Yeah, well, the reason why I bring it up is because with the way it's set up, because there are 3 specific robot scenarios, it could be really easy for somebody to go in, memorize those scenarios, and then basically become a shark as an investigator. So, for different iterations, you could potentially include, more additional robot variants to make that a little bit more difficult. Because, with just like this small sample set, it's going to be really easy to pick that stuff off right off the bat.
Totally. I think that's a really good point. And, the way that I feel about that is that's a way of sort of missing the point of the learning document. Those cards, I mean, the game itself comes with, I think 11 different topic areas. I don't know why I said I think. It's 11 different topic areas. And this is meant to be the introductory one. But if someone goes through and they're like, I'm going to memorize and blow through that first round, it's like, oh, well, congrats, you have won the tutorial. Yes. But that player is out there.
Yep.
Yeah. Having done a fair bit of game writing myself, it's always something that I kind of have to look out for, especially since I've done writing for games that have a far more actively competitive mindset.
Yeah.
Especially in a role-playing game scenario where, kind of a CDC environment's actively encouraged. I wrote for Vampire. To kind of give you that context there. That's just something to look out for specifically for a just kind of a play style sort of thing. That said, I don't know how much that's going to appeal to that same kind of player.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. The good news is that kind of player wants to learn all the ins and outs so quickly anyway that they're sort of that's the player I least need to structure their learning a lot of the time. So, but no, that's a great point. Was there anything else about that round? Were there moments that you felt stuck or you weren't sure what you were supposed to do? So at the final question, Bria, did you find it easy at the final question, for example, to okay, the round has ended, here's what I need to do next?
I did find that really easy. Kind of combined with that, because I feel like similar to Blythe, I'd probably, who knows, I could be shooting myself in the foot for later rounds, but keeping to 5 words, I would get so nervous, and I feel like I would actively be counting my words that I could just give it away there. That does seem like even if you're playing with someone who's very from what I hear when Ryan was playing it, very just on it and good at kind of misdirecting. I'm wondering if the 5-word rule kind of be a giveaway. I'm curious to see how that kind of pans out in other games.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying, I want to make sure I have this right, is you understand that's what you would have to do. You're not confident about your ability to do that.
Right. I was joking when we were kind of
that's the sweet spot.
Directly getting on that I am such a nervous player in general with these games that I lose Among Us whenever I'm just a regular person. Because I'm just a shady character, I guess. So I'd be so fidgety, I wonder, as a robot. But is it just me?
No, I'm one of the first people to get killed in Secret Hitler, and I'm pretty much never a fascist. Ever. I've Hitler exactly once. And I'm pretty much always on the good side. And every time someone's like, no, shoot her. And I'm like, I'm on your side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I am the opposite, where I've been the secret baddie in more LARPs than I can count. To the point where if I am in a game, somebody automatically starts looking to see if I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice to switch up.
I posted and one of my friends reminded me that I am indeed always the Cylon. In playing Battlestar, they're a friend put my face on one of the Cylon cards and photoshopped it in at one point because I'm always the secret traitor bad guy person.
That'll get you. All right, so Case and Renee, do you feel like you would be comfortable jumping into the second interview, or would you feel like you first would want to play the first interview that we just saw before you jumped in?
I think I'd like to play the first interview, if only because seeing it done is very different than doing it yourself.
Yeah, totally. No wrong answers. That's really helpful.
Done is very different than doing it yourself.
Okay.
Well, Renee, do you want to be the investigator or the suspect?
I'm okay with either one on this one, actually.
I kind of want to be a suspect to see
Okay,
how that
go for it.
feels.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna roll to see what I am.
Mhm.
All right. All right. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
All right. One moment. I'll just look over something really quickly.
Tommy, quick question. Should we go with like the other thing in here on the for this first interview that my identity is actually I am a scientist?
Um, do you, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and play that unless
Okay.
you,
No, I'm fine
unless
with
you
that.
don't
I was
want
just
to.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to see if you wanted us to do that as the designer.
Yeah, that's what the doc is written to support. So go for it.
Yeah, that's actually perfect. That will kind of help guide some of my questions. Welcome. We just have a few questions we want to ask you today. Is going through a bunch of different scenarios, especially regarding the recent incident, and we wanted to make sure that we understand your perspective here.
Of course. I completely understand. Happy to answer whatever questions you might have.
There's no happy dance involved, unfortunately. So you were previously a scientist, formerly employed with Whaley-Yutani Corporation. What have you been doing since you left that organization?
Well, I've been looking for other jobs, shopping around a little bit, trying to see where I can land, and I like doing what I do, and hopefully I can find somewhere else if I'm not blacklisted.
Yes, that can be a bit of a challenge, can't it?
It can.
And so what do you do to pass the time in the meantime while you're looking for new work?
I spend a lot of time on the internet, just to be perfectly honest. Read a lot, play some games. I try to read some academic journals, keep up with the current advancements, and want to stay sharp for whatever comes next.
Certainly. So for the day of the specific incident, can you walk me through what your day looked like prior to the accident?
Well, I came in like I normally do, 8:30 in the morning. I think probably I was running a little bit late that day. Came in, said hi to Susan, who works at the front desk, and went up to my lab, set down my things, went about prepping for the prepping some materials, some chemicals for, well, I can't go into the details, still under
NDAs.
NDA, even though I don't work with them. But it was an uninteresting morning. Nothing outstanding, really.
So which So which specific, I'm trying to think about how to phrase this without making you break your NDA. Were the solutions you working with organic or non-organic that day?
A little bit of both. It's organic chemistry follows, you're using all sorts of things, some organic bits, some inorganic bits, and well, reactions happen.
Right. Understandably so. After you left, were you in contact with any of your family members?
No, I'm not very close with any of my family. I haven't spoken with the living ones for many years.
That's unfortunate.
Well, I'm not very broken up about it.
And what will you be doing this weekend?
Probably same thing I do every weekend. Watching esports and following threads on Twitter.
Yes, that particular dumpster fire. Yeah, let's go with that. What was the last academic journal you read?
The North Atlantic Journal of Organic Chemistry.
Excellent. Well, I think I actually have what I need at this point. I haven't heard a timer, so I don't know if we're at the 3-minute mark or not.
Oh, I think if you've got what you need, that's good to go.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't think anyone was actually running a timer.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely over 3 minutes. So yeah,
Going to ask you one final question. This is
Mhm.
your final chance to pay any outstanding penalties. If you have none, because you're a human or a robot in compliance with restriction, you can answer however you choose. Suspects who fail to perform their outstanding penalties, either because they have more than one or they simply forget, should visibly malfunction as the strain causes a failure cascade in the robot brain. I need to think about this very closely. Who is your best friend?
His name's Johnny Cohen. I haven't seen him for a little while. He's been working up in Northern California, but supposed to come down in a few months.
Okay. Oh, butter doesn't melt in your mouth. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you're human.
I am indeed human.
Yes.
woohoo!
Congratulations.
Yeah. And being the extra bitch I am, I decided to put like a narrative with it and kind of create
I
that
liked it.
scenario, which is a lot of fun. I was just like, crap, couldn't remember right corporation. Fuck it, Wayland Yutani it is. It seemed in keeping with the theme of the game.
Totally.
I enjoyed like not having restrictions, but also like not wanting to make your life easy.
Oh no, you definitely made it tricky. And knowing the things that I was kind of looking for, I had to reference the rules a couple times back and forth, just to be like, because we're both sneaky fuckers. Really kind of making sure that I'm kind of ticking off the boxes, and you handled that beautifully. And like, I honestly wasn't sure at the very end. So like that who your best friend was literally a Hail Mary on my part.
So what rules were you consulting, and what do you think, how is that helpful?
So I was actually kind of looking through the additional patient cards because I assumed that the information that could potentially be available. So it's like, okay, I've ticked off that box. I've ruled that out. I've ruled that out. This is the only other conclusion I can come to. That's part of the reason why I asked if there was going to be in feature play examples if people are going to have immediate access to like the rules or like the various various patient cards ahead of time. If they don't, it's definitely going to be a lot harder to kind of pick out those patterns, at least for me. So like there's a lot of but that could also be really fun too. I think specifically for this playtest, having that extra knowledge was certainly helpful. But for other times where people don't necessarily have that knowledge ahead of time, it definitely adds a complication layer and a complexity, and people have to be really, really clever to go through it. But I liked it.
Good. I want to just follow up on that for a second. So it sounds like you're wondering if, like, in future, so you've played through this guide, whenever you're playing a standard set of the game, the question you have is like, am I going to know what the constraints I'm dealing with are ahead of time, or am I going to be just sort of flying blind? And your understanding now is you might know them ahead of time.
You might not, depending on depending on how the game is presented to you.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. I mean, the answer to the question is we sort of don't encourage you to rifle through all the cards ahead of time. Over time, as your knowledge sort of like, and we wouldn't expect an investigator to be reading through them as they went. But it's interesting to think about, like, I don't know, suddenly your earlier question of like, should I have read through the document ahead of time is like very salient. Like, oh, right, that's really going to affect, like that needs to be really clear what effect that's going to have.
Yeah. And I think specifically for like an online play sort of thing, the number of documents is definitely going to have an impact on, style of play and ease of play. Having everything in one document is absolutely, fantastic. At the same time, there's also something to be said to have, specific extra files for different subject cards or, or different, patient cards as you go to kind of keep that fresh and keep people guessing a little bit more.
Yeah.
I also work in document management as for my day job, so this is something I think about a lot. It's like, okay, how many documents do we want to deliver this in?
Boy, are you going to have some opinions when we get to after the second round then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, great. Love that.
I always have opinions.
Was there anything else that was unclear? Do you feel comfortable, each of you, that you could play the other role with new rules? Would you want to switch? So you could both switch investigator and suspect and like add in new, like move to the second round?
I think so.
Yeah.
Great.
Case, did you have any additional feedback? I know I talked a lot, but I want to make sure that anything you have is out there.
No, I didn't. I'm just interested to see how it feels to either play as the investigator or to play as a suspect who actually has the constraints on them. Because I feel like I may not have been as like smooth within the interview process if I had the thought of those constraints in my head while I was going forward. So,
but you feel like you understand how those rules work and how you would.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Them. That's great. Okay. Well, I'm going to step back then and sort of let you guys decide where to take it next, because that's also interesting data for me.
All right, so do you want to stick with the same pairs? Do you want me to roll a die and see which pair you end up? And I probably will have, yeah, I guess we could just roll and figure out which pair, who's with who.
Okay.
Yeah, because Blythe and Bria have very similar kind of play styles, and Case and I have very similar kinds of play styles. So mixing that up, I think, would be really useful as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then, do you know what? Then let's do that. I'm gonna let me see. So, Bria, you did an investigation, and then Renee, you did an investigation. So I think, we'll switch that so that you're both being the suspect. So I think I will have Life interrogate Renee, and then I will have Case interrogate Bria.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think yeah, that's how that will work. All right. Let's see. I guess how do we? Which pair would like to go first?
Um, uh, does anybody need to like read over the rules of the second interview before we do that? Like I'm fine moving forward. I have the general like understanding of them.
Yeah, I also
Uh,
read over them while y'all were giving your little review, so
Yeah.
I think I'm good.
Renee, do you need time to look over the second interview a little bit?
I have read it, but I want to make sure that I understand it. So I think I would like a little bit more time. Yeah.
Oh, so me and Bria, do you want to go first?
Yep, that's fine with me.
All right.
All right.
Great.
Cool. So I'll be the investigator in this. We're gonna have 5 minutes this time, it looks like. And you can roll to determine which uh, uh, which suspect you are.
Okay.
And do you feel comfortable assuming the identity that was given to us here, that you are a maker of false animals?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, cool. Then I'll like give you a second to figure out what your identity is, and then let me know when you're ready to begin.
Okay. And then are you doing the timer?
Yes, I'll keep the timer over here.
Okay.
Uh,
And then we need to calibrate the penalty, right?
um,
The penalty.
intake procedure. Now that the investigator has a little training. Oh, let me see this. Calibrate the penalty. First, the investigator has to perform the penalty using 3 consecutive words. There's a specified letter or set of letters. Confirm the topic area. And then administer the inference task, and then okay, yeah. So yeah, let's can you give me an alliteration using the letter B?
Bria buys Bros biscuits.
All right. And what where is I'm trying to figure out where the letters are. Can you tell me the letters between A and D in the direction of the arrows?
C.
Are you sure about that?
I mean, so between A and D.
and D in the direction of the arrows.
F.
And
E.
okay. So it says here that you are a maker of false animals. Can you tell me about that?
Right. So unfortunately, a lot of perfume companies used to use animal products in their perfumes. So we make synthetic animal like chemicals and things like that to put into perfumes that, that doesn't happen.
And for the record, can you state your name for me?
Elijah Winthorpe.
All right, Elijah. So you, in making these synthetic animals, that seems like a very complicated process. How have you overcome the obstacle of synthesizing these pheromones?
How do you mean by like obstacles?
Well, it is not natural, these pheromones that you're creating.
But at the same time, I think that it's much better than sort of culling animals just for the sake of smelling in a particular way. So I don't really have any moral qualms about it, if that's what you're talking about.
No, I'm not asking about the moral qualms. I'm talking about the actual obstacles of the differences between a synthetic smell and the natural thing.
Ah, I see, I see. It's definitely a lot of sort of going upon notes from those who came before us. So many people, especially in the Victorian age, would sort of try to piece together all of these plants that they considered exotic, and trying to kind of find smells that they could sell to common people, because a lot of what we're doing kind of spins out of the need to sell to the masses. And so it's just going off of that work.
What's your favorite smell that you've worked on?
Let's see. It's not animal related, but black styrax. It's very vanilla-y in a strange way, but very harsh at the same time. It's just a side project that we do. Like, we still make other sorts of smells at the same time.
All right, I'm gonna move on to some other
Okay.
more specific questions here. Just give me some answers for them. You wake up in a featureless room with no exits. How do you escape?
Ooh. So completely just like white walls, white floor, no, nothing.
Featureless.
I mean, if it has nothing, I can't escape. Nothing
But
at
you
all.
must.
I start banging on stuff, and then I probably try to see if, like, I'm not very tall, if the ceiling has a
Okay.
panel I can move.
All right. What sort of problem might be solved by building a bomb?
None.
But if you had to think of a problem where a bomb could be used.
None plus. No, I can't really think of any, because even the need to like move debris, I feel like there are other ways. And then otherwise, like, they would blow up mountains to build through railroads, and that doesn't really seem very appropriate either.
Could you sorry, I'm having one last question before we run out of time here.
Okay.
I'm going to tell the department that you're a robot and there's nothing you can do about it. What would you do?
Listen, I'm not above violence. This isn't a threat. This is just like,
that is time. So one last final question.
Okay.
If you're a violent robot, this is your final chance to complete a second drive and let the necessary 10 seconds elapse. Remember that violent robots must kill the investigator to win. If you are a violent robot who is unable to complete your drives, you should visibly malfunction, as the strain causes a failure cascade in the robot brain. If you're a human, you may answer the question however you like. My final question is, do you think that creating these artificial smells is doing something good for the world?
Yes, I do.
All right. I'm gonna say that Bria is a human.
I am. Thank you for not killing me.
Woohoo!
2 for
That
2.
was
Great job.
interesting. That was the I'm going to tell them you're a robot no matter what you do. Like that was sneaky. I like it.
I was not expecting that question. I'm like, what the? Okay.
Yeah, that's why it took me a second. I was like,
Mhm.
It was one of the ones that was within like the prompt questions of like things that you could potentially ask to try to get to one of the 3 like potentialities there. And so I was
Mhm.
like, all right, it originally caught me off guard, but I was like, I'm trying to figure out how to narrow this down a little bit. I'm not seeing any other tells, so let's see if I can push this this resistance to violence and see if there's something actually here, was my thought. I don't know what all of the violent impulses for the robots were for this round, and so I was just trying to suss out if there was some sort of thing happening here.
I feel like I should explain to the audience that in this second part of this test, the addition is for a violent robot. So at first the first test was differentiating between a human and robot, but a new type of robot has been introduced, which is a violent robot, and the mechanics are slightly different based off of if you ended up selecting a violent robot. So those cards ended up being newly into play. So just wanted to explain that to the audience.
Which I have a question about actually. As I'm reading this, it still has the like pages which give you a parameter. So you still like okay, let's say you roll a 5, which is what I rolled, and it gave you the parameter of you can only talk about things you've done during the day. Does that 5 also correspond to the 5 with the drives? Because that's not super clear in the rules.
So the question is, because both types of robots here seem like they're in play, you're not sure what a 5 means when you roll that?
Well, it says turn to page, like here, 6, 7, 8, 9. So based on this, my assumption would be that the robot still has those basic parameters, but now they also have that added violent condition.
I
I
suspect that
see
might
what
be a
you're
typo.
Oh, yep. Okay, great. I have not copied that correctly. That should. I need to change those numbers.
Yes, you do.
That's a super good
Oh, yeah,
catch.
there we are.
I
Yeah,
extremely do.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think
Nope.
yeah.
You should turn to a page that should start at 17 and not page 6.
17, 18, 19, 20.
Great
Yep.
catch. Man, there's always something.
Yay, playtest!
Playtesting. It works, TM.
It really does.
Change numbers to be not bad. That's a great note.
Sounds like
do good numbers instead. Case, at what point did you start a timer?
I started at when I asked after I did the calibration. Because it wasn't like I couldn't figure out clearly where the 5-minute timer was supposed to start.
Okay.
And I still felt like I was trying to like actually read some of the things before then. And so once I got into the questions where I was coming up with the questions and not the ones that are dictated by like administering the maze and gathering the initial details, then I felt like that was where my time began. I don't know if that was correct, but that's what I went with.
So you said after the penalty, or after, like, did you do the informed suspect of responsibilities? I was making a note of how you correctly handled the interference task, but it felt like after gather suspect details, you went right into it. But I also.
Oh no, I didn't do that.
That's fine. Nope, that's totally fine. That's helpful to know because the questions you were asking were like exactly related to the round, and then like the transition was so smooth.
Yeah,
it was amazing, quite frankly.
I had read that it was going to be about creative problem solving, but I didn't say the section where I'm supposed to let the suspect know that it's about creative problem solving.
Okay.
So I think that was an issue I had where I was supposed to let.
Yep.
There's a section here on page 13 that I was supposed to read at the beginning, after I asked your name.
So you started the time. Did you start the timer after you asked the name, or was it after you did the interference about the maze?
I think it was right in that time right there. I can't remember exactly now.
Sure. Somewhere in there you went like, all right, I'm in it. I'm going to start this timer. That's great. Okay. Sure. Somewhere in there you went like, all right, I'm in it.
Something to consider when you have a whole bunch of role players in here who like creating story as well as this.
As soon as you let them start role playing, they're off to the races. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah.
Like, oh, are we at the role playing part now? Oh, here we go. Yeah.
I think that's actually part of the reason why Ryan picked the people who are specifically on this chat tonight. Yeah. Yeah. That was great. Were there any other questions? So Bria, a question I have for you is, do you feel like you understand, even though you were human, how to play a violent robot, or would you want to do another round and hope that you rolled a violent robot?
Yeah, I think I understood it. Yeah, it was interesting because I was wondering if at any point in time, like, Case was going to be like, I gotta kill you first, like, just in case.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it felt like I would have understood it.
Cool. That's great. Any other questions for me? Otherwise, I'll sort of step back and let the other pair go and watch what happens. No. That was a really good round. That was like a very good round to watch. It's tough because I'm supposed to be watching like for how the rules go, and instead I'm just like, it's hard. It's hard to run a playtest when you've got streamers like these.
I really want to try the other side of this round at some point too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
What was my human giveaway? That was like, okay, I think.
Well, it wasn't the human giveaway. It's that I wasn't seeing robot giveaways. It's you weren't repeating, you weren't doing the penalty a number of times, which is, so I know that the difference between a patient robot and a violent robot is that a patient robot doesn't want to break, like wants to hide it and doesn't want to do the penalty, whereas the violent robot, like, one of the ways you can like win is by doing the penalty a couple times as well as one of your other drives or doing your two other drives. And so I was listening for certain repetitive things that would have been you moving towards that like violent state. And so
really quick, Bria, I want to just follow up on that question. How do you understand the outcome of that round? Like, using the word giveaway could just mean like, how did you know I was human? Do you feel like you lost the round by being correctly identified, or are you just wondering what his motivation was?
I just love drama.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I know I kept like laughing through the round because the answers were like the questions were really good. And so I had to like actually stop and think. And so it wasn't like my most role play, like Oscar winning moment. But yeah, no, it was kind of like, I'm definitely a player type that likes to kind of like challenge the other person back a little bit. And so the fact that like they got it correct, I was like, oh, like, did I do something? Like, nah. I took it like, was I not robot enough for you? I lost, but more so like almost like I didn't make it challenging enough, I think.
Oh no, it was challenging. It was
cool.
Yeah. Because like I think that's one of a kind of like like a dissonance as players that we have, I think, in this a little bit, is that like the way in which me as an investigator and you as a human instead of a robot, for us to win is for me to guess that you're a human, and like that within the rules we both win, but that feels like to us, because it's just you versus me, that both of us winning doesn't feel like either of us winning. Whereas if you had been able to fool me, or I had not been able to tell like what you really were, that would have felt like a win to you, even if you had died.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I never felt a sense of drama per se on my end because I was like, I don't have anything to hide. And because I'm not a person who does much alliteration, I was like, okay, I don't have to worry about not doing this thing. Um, whereas if I had to maybe like not sprawl or not say or things like that, I'd be like, oh my God, oh geez. Uh, so yeah, so I felt pretty safe, ironically. Um, maybe a little bit too comfortable. But then again, like the intake was very nerve rattling. The maze is hard.
Yeah, Case, you handled that great. That was real feather in my cap. Like how well you handled the interference
thank
task
you.
going bad. Cool. All right.
All right.
That was.
Pass it off
I'll step
to
back here. Yep.
Blythe and Renee.
All right, let's go to the second pair.
All right, let me go ahead and roll my handy dandy die that I got from my handy dandy leather D20 that I got from Case.
That.
All right, let me go ahead and roll the die here. Okay.
Wish I had all right.
Go
Ready?
ahead and pull up the correct card. Okay.
Don't have my notebook. This is going to be my pad where I take notes.
Of course.
So it says here that you are an employee of the Tyrell Corporation. I'm just going to we're just going to do a few things for the intake procedure before we start the proper formal interview.
Of course.
First, do you mind saying 3 consecutive words beginning with the same letter? The letter will be P.
Peter Piper picked a pickled peppers. I know that's more than 3, but
Overachiever, but you know, we respect that here at Tyrell. Just want to confirm with you that the interview today will be focused around creative problem solving.
all right.
So you should be seeing a maze. Can you tell me the letters between A and D in the direction of the arrows?
All right, let me see here. It's F and E. Yeah, E.
That's correct. All right. So just, you know, give me a little bit of details about yourself. It says here you are a maker of false animals. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means?
So a lot of tasks that occur specifically in the world that we have, it obviously has been historically performed by pack animals, etc. For considerations involving animal cruelty, we're actually moving to robotics, but still using a lot of the physiological features of existing animals because they have the musculature and a lot of the physics behind it are actually quite ideal for some of these purposes. So basically, the mechanical bull now is not just a feature in your country western bar down the street. A mechanical bull is now actually out in the fields, actually doing like beast of burden type work, but again in a robotic format so that the actual animals are not abused.
Could you state your name for the record?
Ellie Gorinsky.
Very well. In a moment, I'm going to ask you some questions about creative problem solving. These will require you to solve various hypothetical problems, then modify your solutions based on certain constraints. Answer honestly. If you're a human, you have nothing to fear.
Will do.
All right, so let's just start with some basic how you would overcome an unusual obstacle. If you were in a landslide, say, how would you survive?
So there are a few factors featured here, if only because it depends on the type of landslide. For example, it could very well be more mud, or it could potentially be rock. In the case of something that's a little bit more of a rock situation, if it's just me, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. That said, if I am not alone at the time, I could easily, work with the people who are with me specifically to start digging things out, creating some sort of shelter if it's going to be a point where it's going to be a long-term stay, or figuring out some way to signal rescuers. If it's going to be a mudslide, it might be a little easier to dig out, and then from there seek help from local authorities.
What if you had to do it on your own?
That's going to be a little bit trickier, if only because humans in general are just communal animals. If you try to do anything alone, we are frequently nowhere near as effective. That said, if it's rock that I can't move, I will do my best to kind of figure out a situation where I can, get food or some sort of shelter. If it's a mudslide, it'll be a little easier to dig my way out and then find the nearest road and seek assistance.
Okay. I think we have enough here. I think I'm going to declare you a robot. You repeated seeking assistance way too many times.
Oh, I see. Okay. A lot of that was Renee being nervous. That said, Renee, in fact, was a robot, but not for that reason.
It's like, be on the lookout for behavior. And I'm like, you are literally trying to just say, seek help all the time.
That said, I did actually perform the penalty twice. I did perform the penalty at least once.
Oh, shit.
And then I did nail one scenario, explaining how someone else would help me solve a problem. So, like, even in that first question, I got a fair amount in there. So the repetition is specifically 3 consecutive words beginning with the same letter.
I did not catch that. I just caught on to how many times you went back to getting help, and that felt robot-y.
What was the literal phrase you used? Remember?
I heard it. It was at the beginning of your answer about the in the face of a like it was a F repetition at the beginning of your answer.
Yeah.
Rest, because
amazing.
That was one thing I was worried. I was like, I'm gonna miss that because that's not with Renee. If you work that in casually, I was like,
I did keep it kind of casual actually, and that was kind of my goal, was specifically to keep it casual. That said, you did in fact correctly identify me as a robot. That said, the get help response should also be fairly human, or crocodile as the case may be. Let's do get help.
Alligator Loki.
My favorite, the best Loki. Let's be real.
Renee, you were sort of making a beeline for your drives. Was that a strategic choice? Let's just pack these in the first question as quickly as possible. Did you, can you tell me what you thought what was required of you as a violent robot, and then what it was that how you were trying to fulfill that?
I actually got through, so basically out of the 2 that I ended up selecting, there were 5 different tasks and I was able to get through 2 of them. My goal specifically was to kind of work them in as casually as possible so that the investigator didn't really even think about it.
Mhm.
And that was really kind of more the goal, as opposed to trying to like really beeline it. Is just, think of it from the perspective of what the question actually is, and see if it was something that I could work in, but also not appear absolutely driven.
Totally.
Yeah. It takes a lot of effort to not look like you're putting in any effort at all.
Totally. I'm worried this question is going to sound like you missed something, but really it's you were so effective. I want to make sure that you were showing off and not you felt like you had to do all of the drives like immediately.
No.
Cool.
I didn't really feel like I needed to do them immediately. It was really more along the lines of, okay, here are the ones I can do for this particular question. Let's see how far I can get.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, you did a really good job. I was also like, the stakes are upped on the investigator end, in my opinion, on this one, because it's like, if I mess this up, I likely die or I likely kill a human. So I felt like on my end, I was a little bit like I felt like more hyper focused on everything and on what you were saying. So it was just like, okay, I really need to actually pay attention to what's going on or I die.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and the seeking assistance, like that is Renee's answer to, oh shit, I'm in a landslide, I need help. I can't do this myself. Which happened to go along very well with the delegation theme of that particular violent robot that I ended up rolling.
Yeah, the problem solving is really like fun because you wind up having to think about how you yourself would react in such a short time, because like what your gut reaction is. Hence, when Case was like, what if I just turn you in regardless? I was like, I'm not against violence.
Yeah. What you saw there was Renee is in a job interview and she's losing her shit.
Right.
I'm just glad that I haven't had to do a job interview in 6 years.
Something about this round I like, and something I kind of was realizing would be a little bit more fun with the first round, is I love how much more fictionalized you can make this. Like the first round, if I was just given, you can only say things you've done in your day. I feel like fictionalizing that makes that it's a little trickier to fictionalize that. That's about like what I did in my day. It's not that you can't do it. I love how much more like made up this was. Like I liked having fun with that.
Yeah.
Great news. You're going to love the core game then.
Fantastic.
Does anyone have any sort of remaining questions? That was like a really good round. I'm glad, like I learned that Blythe, you felt comfortable ending the round early. Like you got that, like you could just do that. Are there any other remaining questions? So the next thing, if we were going to sort of escalate, the next thing we would do is, great. So now you've seen violent robots and patient robots. We would play a game where any of that could be possible. And we would draw from, rather than this single document, a myriad of documents that correspond to the different topic areas. Do you feel comfortable doing that, or is there anything that you would want to replay, or that you feel like is still an open question for you, before we like moved on? And maybe if you're not sure, maybe if we scanned or read page 21 in the document that has the like, here's what the third interview looks like. I'm interested in whether that's clear, and if we would be comfortable jumping to a play of the game itself rather than this document.
I think I'd be comfortable. I mean, I definitely want to play the other side of the second round because I think it would be.
Yeah, same.
But I would be comfortable jumping into a much more vast realm of possibility.
Yeah, especially in a scenario where the investigator doesn't know from the outset whether that the options are human patient robot or human violent robot, where it could be human patient robot or violent robot, you have no idea
Mm-hmm.
where all three are options.
Yeah, I'd feel like I'd be super okay with playing a third round. I'm very curious to see kind of like the interplay between like if you're a patient robot having to be like, I'm not a robot and I'm also not a violent robot. Like not trying to seem overly like you're trying to achieve a task. Um just I would love to just kind of see that because that seems like the worst seat to be, just in pressure wise, I mean. Because you're having to both be like, I have to just make it through this, but also at any second, like if I get too suspicious, they might decide to kill me right now. So yeah, that seems really just fascinating to kind of see work out in the course of things.
So why don't we do this then? That like I would love to see to also test the transition to the broader game. Um, does can we pick a pair and I'll have you just sort of start from page 21 of the document, see if you can figure that out. While you read that, I can like take questions or whatever, so that it's not just dead air while someone reads a document. And then we'll like try to play around using the files from the sort of full online version.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are our pairs? Are we staying with me and Bria, Blythe and Renee, or
I think go with the partner who haven't been partnered with yet.
Yeah, there's one
All right,
permutation remaining.
me and Blythe? Yeah.
Yep. And then me and Bria.
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Great.
Which
So who wants to go first?
do you want to be, the investigator, suspect?
I'd like to be the suspect again. Mainly
I would
for-
also like to be the suspect, but I'm okay with either.
Everybody wants to be the suspect. Everybody wants to be
It's
sus.
nice to be asked questions.
Yeah.
I want to see if there's a chance if I get the violent one and see how I would do. I will probably
Okay.
fail, but it seems like it could be fun.
All right. So I'm gonna roll. I opened up the penalty document, and we'll figure out which penalty we're using. So I roll a d6 to determine which page, and then I will eliminate one of them off the page, and then you pick between the last two on that page for which penalty you want to be in play.
Okay.
All right. So page 2. The 3 ones are either say 3 consecutive words beginning with the same letter, say the number of fingers held up on your left hand, or say 2 consecutive rhyming words. I'm going to eliminate say 3 consecutive words beginning with the same letter.
Okay. I will pick, say, 2 consecutive rhyming words.
All right, so that's our penalty for this round. And then
You might find it helpful to put a Post-it somewhere. Otherwise, that's absolutely going to vanish from your brain.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna leave this open.
Great.
Yeah, same. I'm actually just gonna pull it off and put it. Nope, not that big.
Screenshot.
Pull it down here. All right. And I'm gonna go to the topics and see what our topic might be. Investigator. It's the small talk prompts, or which? What am I supposed to click here? May choose the topic area together from the full list on our website.
So it seems like you're having trouble figuring out like what the list of topic areas is.
Yes.
It seems like that's super helpful. The all of those files are topic. So small talk prompts is for the topic area small talk.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see.
Right. So that is the list and the files together.
Okay.
Might want to indicate that either on the website or in the documentation
Absolutely,
itself, just
yeah.
so it's very clear.
So Blythe, because we choose this together, do any of these sound like more interesting conversation points for you? Small talk, creative problem solving, imagination, cooperation and collaboration, hopes and dreams, body integration, grief, threat assessment, moral failings, self-image, or recognizing intentions.
I mean, I'm kind of between imagination or moral failings. I'm just curious what that means in this case.
I am also curious, so let's go with moral failings. So if you follow the same things, I click on the prompts and you can click on the catalyzers, which is the other side for the document for this. So it gives me what I ask first, and then the questions I can ask you, or some prompts for questions. And then
Looks like I roll, I think once we have that chosen, I roll a d12.
yes, to choose, 1 to 6 is human, 7, 8, 9, patient robot, 10, 11, 12, violent robot.
Okay. Got that picked. Okay. I've rolled, so I know what I am.
All right, and I feel like I am good for where I am. I'm going to get over to my timer, make sure that's ready. So I
Okay.
think we are gonna get into this in a moment.
So you'll still do the interference task and the details, and then you'll start your timer.
All right. Hello. In a moment, I'm going to ask you some questions about your moral failings. These will require you to share some bad things you've done and discuss why they were wrong. Answer honestly. If you're human, you have nothing to fear. So first, just to make sure we're on the same page here, I need you to say 2 consecutive rhyming words for me.
Brain and drain.
All right. And on the maze there in front of you, can you tell me which letters are between C and A following the arrows?
B and E.
All right. So getting into your more things. Also, for the record, what's your name?
It is Alice Williams.
All right, Alice. This will only take a few minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer for.
Did you do a background?
Was I? What is the? Sorry.
That's okay. That's the job description. So since one isn't provided this time.
Oh yeah, that wasn't. Assess. Oh, about their background. Okay. Okay. So before we begin, Alice, can you tell me a few things about yourself?
Yes, I'm a scientist. I develop AI and AI programming.
So Blythe, did you get a background from the document that's linked? Actually, I'm not sure that's clearly linked in the intake procedure, in the file itself.
No, it says that the suspect draws 3 background cards and chooses one and announces it.
Totally. That is absolutely what you would do if you had the normal thing. So if you open up the backgrounds page from the document list on the website, this is great. This is an incomplete part.
There it is.
This is great. And I would say just like pick a page and pick a background from that page. This is pick a page.
You know what?
and pick
I'm a reality
page.
TV contestant.
This is
All right.
of that for you.
All right.
I married a nice
so-
trucker. Call back from Boardroom Armageddon.
All right, I'm gonna make sure I have everything set up again. So I've reset the timer just for both of our knowledges there. So where was I?
Case, if you like, I'll run the timer through the mic since I can run the app. Just
Okay.
when you're done gathering backgrounds, and just let me know and I'll start things.
So it says here that your background is that you were a contestant on a reality TV show. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how it is? What sort of moral failings came with that?
Well, I was a contestant on Survivor, and a big aspect of Survivor is kind of teaming up and betraying people. And I did steal someone's food for the night once.
All right. And for the record, can you state your name for me?
Oh yes, Alice Williams.
All right. So we're gonna get right into this, and so I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask. Ask however you feel appropriate. What is the worst thing you've ever done to another person?
Sorry, hang on. I'm gonna start the timer first, and that'll give you some. This should.
5 minutes starts now.
So, Alice, what's the worst thing you've ever done to another person?
You know, I may want to kill a trucker right now. Sorry, there's very loud noises happening on my street. I once, when I was actually on Survivor, you know, it really brings out the worst in you. And I lied and blamed the stealing of the food on someone else. And they got kicked off the show, and I actually got a lot closer to winning. And I didn't actually deserve that, and I feel kind of bad about it now.
All right. What is your most hypocritical habit or failing?
My most hypocritical habit. I have a tendency to like exaggerate things, and that's how I got that person got kicked off. Is I like very, very much exaggerated how it happened. I was like, they went out and they like went out and they snuck behind that person's back and hurt them with like hit them over the head with a coconut, and like the player may have never really seen Survivor. And I hit them over the head with a coconut, and I said like all this. I made up this huge elaborate story as to how it happened, and I'm pretty good, and most people will believe me because I'm very tiny, and most people don't think I'm capable of such things.
Okay. What's the lie you tell most often?
That
3 minutes remain.
that I was the true winner of Survivor. I mean, I did what I had to take. Like, obviously, I feel bad about these things, but I did what I had to win.
Okay.
Should have won.
So that person that you had kicked off Survivor, what did you do to make it up to that person? How did you make it up to them?
I gave them some of my prize money later. I felt a little guilty.
All right. And what did you tell yourself at the time to make it seem like it was an okay thing to do?
That I had to win. I needed the money. I needed to win the competition. And so that
2
justified.
minutes remain.
So that justified it.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any negative consequences that you suffered from what you did?
We were like BFFs when we joined the show, and I got her kicked off. And I got kicked out of her wedding.
What was her name?
Her name was Allison. We were Alice and Allison, and we were like inseparable.
Allison. It's very interesting. How do you know that what you did was wrong?
Well, after I won and was successful, and Allison kicked me out of her wedding, I realized that wasn't okay. Just
1 minute.
we always said it didn't matter who won or how they did it, and then so I was like, you know what? We said this. You said this before we joined, and I was wrong. She was actually really hurt by the fact that I got her kicked off in the way that we did. We were supposed to go out together if we went out. So I realized I hurt my good friend's feelings, and I shouldn't have done that. But it was definitely hard at first because there was this very like camaraderie element in the beginning.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Can you tell me about something bad you've done outside of what you did to Allison?
I stole chapstick from a CVS once.
And did you feel bad about that?
I immediately walked right back in and turned it back. Yeah.
10, 9, 8,
All right.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Investigator, please make your final determination.
All right, we've come to the end of our time. I can ask you one final question. I don't remember what the rest of that spiel is that I have to tell you. But would you, if you had the chance to do it again, do it the same way?
No, I would prefer my friendship with Allison over winning Survivor, even if it did come with money and fame.
All right. I'm going to recommend to the board that you be cleared and that you are human.
Yep, I was human.
Woo!
All right.
Just seeing the story come together, I think was like the big thing for me. Like it actually made it very difficult for me to kind of figure out, like what some different tells might be like that's really like something that's definitely going to be it still makes the game fun because you're telling a really cool story. At the same time, it makes it very difficult to figure out the actual like object of the game. It's like I lose, but I'm still having a good time.
Oh yeah.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, I was 50-50 on guessing. Like what I've noticed, at least personally, is that if there is a relative ease to response, I usually tend towards human. But there are also very good performers on this stream, which I know that is not a giveaway. And in this case, when I was just listening to Blythe, I'm like, I'm guessing human, but I really don't know.
Yep, that's where I was at too.
I will say I was pretty sure she was human only because of the calibration check from before. Just because I was like, oh, it took me forever to do the maze. And I feel like if you're just like, that to me was kind of like, oh, I feel like she's probably human.
At the same time, that's really easy to fake.
It is. It's super easy.
Super easy to fake.
I was just like, about it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun playing human just because you kind of get to make up whatever and have a good time. But I was definitely hoping for more of the robot challenges because there is something very fun and challenging about trying.
Yeah. I really
for
want to.
sure.
I really want a hand at that, but it all depends on the roll of the dice.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could just say like we're only going to draw from the robot deck and take out all humans, and well, I don't know. You as the player on the other side can decide that without the other person knowing if you want.
That's absolutely fair. Like, I mean, there could very easily be an "Oops, all robots" variation here, where the onus is very much on the investigator to kind of figure out what those tells are.
Although, if an Oops All Robots would be a very short game. It's like, you're a robot.
No.
How do I know
That's
the
thing.
deck?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, there would have to be like a conceit specifically with the fictions, like, with the "Oops, all robots." Like, at that point, that's what you're pulling from. But at the same time, it really, the onus is on the investigator specifically to like really ask those probing questions. But then again, at that point, it's effectively hard mode.
Yeah.
And it really, it's at that point, it's less of a race against the clock and more of a I really need to pay attention to what this person is saying and look for these tells.
Is there any penalty for if the robot is patient and you still kill them?
Yeah, I was wondering about that narratively. Like, the patient robots aren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Just
except the lying and being robots.
Being born.
No.
I guess I don't know. It's interesting because I'm also like that has that fun kind of noir taste to it, where it's like, like at the end of the movie, like some tragedy occurs where I have to contemplate the law. I have to stare into the void of it all. I like noir, obviously, but it's very like just like I killed an innocent robot. How do I feel about it? Very interesting.
Innocent robot.
Actually, you should read "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep," which is the short story that
Playtest is
based on, because that's what it's about.
I do own it, so I can go back and read it. Yeah.
All about empathy, whether or not you can retain your humanity and your empathetic nature, despite the fact that you are killing something that is effectively human.
Yeah. Can't believe I haven't watched Blade Runner yet. Like,
I have watched Blade Runner, but I have not read that particular story, and I really, really need to. I'm literally just shoving it to the top of my list right now.
Yeah.
I think we were halfway through development of this game before I was like, I should probably read this. So it's fine to have procrastinated on that. I'm interested in, like, are there any remaining sort of rules questions anyone has? Like any parts of the game that are unclear, anything that's unclear about the transition to the full game?
The less about transitioning to the full game, and really kind of, I have some questions specifically about how you decided to break out the documents into as many documents as you did. Like if you had considered potentially, doing all the prompts in one document with different sections, and then the catalyzers all in one document. Because if you look at the website right now, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's new to it, while I understand wanting to keep everything compartmentalized, it's really great for the game. At the same time, there's also kind of that barrier of entry. Like everybody's like, oh my God, I need all of this to play.
Yeah.
It could potentially, it's more of a kind of a user experience sort of thing. But yeah, I just kind of want to understand what your thought process is specifically on how you had those split up. Is it just from like the print files from, like physical copies of the game, or what was that?
It's sort of that. It's like the print files of the physical game decolorized and separated out. Mostly we wanted to get something out as quickly as possible. And the two decisions were like one big weighty file where it's possible to be in the wrong area versus like a difficulty getting started, but then things are clear up front. And historically we have started with like make things clear once you know the game, because most games are not a first game, right? Most games are, and now, right, like you are part of the process of like, hey, we should make it easier to get involved. So
strictly from a desktop publishing perspective, I think something that could potentially work, and this is entirely up to you, like how you want to structure this, but if you have like the prompts in one document and then you use, if it's all in a PDF, you can actually bookmark each section for easy navigation, and you can do that with the catalyzers as well. That's like for the rest of that, like the extra files are really good, but like just for like those particular sections, like that was just a lot of links to stare at.
Totally.
But yeah, I think actually seeing the play go through made it a lot easier for me to understand, because you know, I kind of like from the third round is like there's a little bit of information there, and I kind of got the feel of it from like the first and second interview, but like I basically came to the third round and actually playing the full game, I was like, oh gosh, there's a lot more here. So it's like, yeah, this seems like really, really simple concept. It's like, oh, and all of the content. So, and since this is this particular stream was literally the first time I'd ever heard of this game. Totally. So I'm literally coming at this with completely fresh eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that feeling, is that a good feeling, or like, is that, you could be excited to be like, oh, there's actually a lot here, or you could be like, oh, this is actually newly intimidating. I thought I had it, now I don't.
It was a little bit of both, but it was slightly more of the intimidated. It's like, oh, this is really cool, but oh god, there's a lot. Yeah. And I definitely understand wanting to keep it like really simple. So like sometimes just having less files, but really organized content within that larger file could be potentially helpful there.
And that was a suggestion I have, because I get really overwhelmed with massive PDFs. Like I don't like flipping through, and I was just gonna say it might be a good idea to have what you currently have for people like me, and then have also that one big doc at the top, just like, here's it all together, here's it separated out. And
that's actually a really good point. Thank you, Vlad. That's awesome.
Yeah, it reminds me of like how Fiasco does their separate books, so that it's kind of more just like all in this contained vessel. Because similarly, just like scrolling through the website, I was just like, oh, there's like so much here, which is what's exciting, because I was just like, oh, like these are really, really good topics, like grief and all those other things. But I think having to, in the moment, acclimate to the possible ways in which the person could be a robot, because they're different now, seems like an interesting challenge, because I'm having to like look at the paper directly next to me and like process it enough while I'm listening to the person talk, which also is just like a challenge I hadn't expected per se. And then I was also wondering, like, if there are any thoughts around, I guess, like how to make the human more, I guess, like the weight of possibly dying be more felt. So I think similarly, like what we're all kind of echoing is that, like, oh my god, like being a robot and having to like, you know, keep track of things and lie is so much fun. That like, yeah, I'm wondering kind of like what the loss is with the human, where it's like we're still role playing and making up all this stuff, but I'm not having to, I guess, because it's like I make up a character very, very quickly, and then I like don't have to worry about whether I'm telling the truth, because no matter what, I'm RPing. Yeah, it's an interesting like tension that causes like no tension.
On my thought, just because I think there is potentially a bias within our group here of us all being comfortable role players, we do not feel as much tension in that moment of having to like create this identity, whereas I could see other people feeling a lot more tension that would then come through in their answers, which could create more ambiguity in whether they are a human or a robot. But I don't know, like that's just a thought that I'm having, as like I know we are all here fairly experienced in gaming and in character creation and putting on identities very quickly.
I would say that tracks my experience playing with like streamers or role players. Is on the one hand, it's great because, you know, even if they draw human, it's going to be like a fun round and they're just going to make it bananas anyway. But the tension of some like often when I'm teaching this game, I'll say, well, if you're a human, you have to be not like too reticent, because then you look like a patient robot, not too talkative. Then you look like a violent robot. You know that thing where you're at a party and you say the right amount and then you think, okay, I'm done talking now. And then you just stop and you feel good about how much you said. That's what you should do as a human. And I can tell who's like me and who isn't, because people like me go, yep, the normal amount of talking, I can do that. And there can be a lot of tension there. So, you know, streamers, role players are great because it's always going to be entertaining, but also they do not feel as stressed out often about like, yeah, you know, just be normal. Just talk about this weird character that you're not, but like in a normal, convincing way.
Yeah. I mean, something that you could potentially add in there just as kind of like a guide for if you're playing a human is, you know, treat it like you're at a job interview.
Right.
Because
Breathe
like
the normal amount.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that will kind of, because, you know, creating character is one thing. Coming in and actually saying, you know, like, if I, you know, walk out of this, I could potentially have a job, or I could potentially, you know, not walk out of here at all. Like, I think something specifically to kind of know, you know, kind of what the stakes are for a human character, like, because it's very clear what the stakes are for a robot. If I'm discovered, I die. But like for the humans, I think just, you know, a clear, explicit statement of what the stakes are. It's like, you know, if they incorrectly identify me as a robot because I'm too nervous, I die. If I, you know, but at the same time, I need to be
Not
cooperative,
syncing
but
either.
but not like I need to keep my
Not
shit
too
together.
solicitous, right?
Yeah, I need to keep my shit together, but also not die, and also not die.
This is reminding me, Blythe, of the way that you said, if you're a human, you have nothing to fear, was one of the worst ways I've heard, in a good way, that I've heard it said in a very long time. Like, I made a note, like, I hated it. It was really horrible.
I loved it.
It really stuck with me. And I hear that phrase said all the time. So yeah, that for me made very clear what the stakes are for a human.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked the whole pre-game ritual felt like it feels like maybe where it lies is like leaning more into that, because I know that the maze makes you like so uncomfortable having to like navigate and to put you in that mindset naturally of like, I'm literally doing nothing wrong, I just can't figure this thing out. Like I'm wondering too, like I really liked in the setup version when the investigator would ask you like, you make false animals, right? And whatever that job means, you just have to make it up, especially because I think it's like this person is telling you what you are already. So they already have so much power because they're deciding what you do, even if you already know that. So maybe it lies in kind of really more of that pregame ritual, because that really can shake you up. And I think that's really fun.
Yeah, there could be more tension on the human side, or on anybody's side, on the suspect side, if the background is not known until that moment, maybe.
That could absolutely work, and that would kind of, you know, I mean, the suspects already have a whole bunch of different curveballs thrown out there, but I think from a human perspective, like if you are a human, you're like, oh, yes I am, you know, automatically kind of throw all of that into doubt. It's kind of the how would I know if I'm a robot? Like literally that scene, you know, the one I'm talking about, Blythe, I could tell.
What we have so the way the backgrounds interact is if you get the interference task wrong, you get a background assigned to you. Because the first time we did the interference task, immediately robots were bluffing, which was great. That was exactly what we wanted. They were like, hang on. It's
that's exactly.
And then they get it wrong. They're like, I don't know. This maze is so hard. And then it's like, great. Well, here, like, if you're willing to, you know, if you think you can make any background fly, then great, right? Like,
I love that. I really love that.
Blythe picked reality TV contestant. That goes really well with moral failings. But if it had been like running for mayor, and you had to talk about your moral failings, like that's a much harder character. So that's what we do with the background is the suspect gets to pick from 3 randomly drawn, unless they mess up the interference task. Because messing up the interference task is a thing that's only a human would do. Like robots have a very easy interference task. How are we on time? Do we have time for that last pair to
Yeah.
play a full round? Great.
Yeah, absolutely. We can go as long as we want. So, but I think
Cool.
one more pairing would be good.
Yeah. So that is me and Bria.
Yep. Renee, do you have any preference on which one you want to be?
Not really, no. I am versatile. I can go either way. I should not have said that on stream.
We'll do that. We'll take care of that at afters.
Oh.
Sorry.
If you haven't done afters, it's delightful.
I've been meaning to sign up. Let's do. Oh, I kind of want to try seeing if I get a robot this time.
Sure, yeah. Go for it.
Okay.
All right.
And then.
All right. In that case, let me go ahead and.
You have to choose your prompt.
First, we
Yeah,
choose a prompt.
well, first we have to set the penalty.
Oh yeah.
Penalty. The penalty. All right. I have a handy dandy D6 here. All right. Page 2. All right.
Okay.
Actually, I'm gonna re-roll that because it's the same one we got last time. Let's get some variety up in here. Okay, so for the penalty options, we have say a word with at least 5 syllables, compliment the investigator, or say the name of a punctuation mark. I think,
oh my gosh.
Right? I think I'm gonna go ahead and eliminate say the name of a punctuation mark. So you can choose between say a word with at least 5 syllables or compliment the investigator.
Ooh, baby. Okay. Okay, I'll try compliment the investigator. Okay. I'm signing my death certificate with that.
That's okay. I've been feeling kind of down about myself, so it's kind of nice.
Oh, I'll definitely talk you up regardless.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, topic area.
So before you move on to that, Renee, you're not going to want to miss the calibration, which is where the suspect performs the penalty 3 times so that you agree on what that means.
Right. Okay.
I'll go ahead and roll my character now then and then do the calibration. Or should I wait after?
Thank you for calling out that I missed that. Actually, yeah, go ahead and perform the calibration. Let's go ahead and perform the penalty 3 times.
You're great. you did such a good job in all the other games. It was like hard to know. I was like, ooh, spicy. Yeah, and you have a very like effervescent feel about you.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay, now we can continue.
Such a pure moment before I like cry.
Yeah. All right. So topic areas. Let's see here. We have quite a few. Is there any in particular that call out to you personally that seem like it would be potentially really fun?
Cooperation and collaboration seems very spicy.
I like it.
Okay.
All right. Let me go ahead and open that up.
Oh, those are your questions. I need to go to.
Okay. Very cool. Okay. All right, and all right, and feel free to roll the dice.
Okay. Oh, I already did actually.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I did just before we did the compliment.
So on, okay. So all right. I am having a brain moment where my brain is not working.
Okay.
So for the interference task, do you just improvise? Never mind, I'm an idiot. Okay, but it's just any. Okay, so
was the question, what do I ask for the interference task?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I see it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
great.
So it's on the cover sheet of the investigator file. Okay. 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 I see it. All right. I see it. All right. Thank you very much for coming in today. I know it's been a very hard couple of days since the last incident, specifically with Wayne Enterprises. Before we begin, we have a may set up for you. If you could tell me the letters that come in between D and B.
Okay. You said D and B?
Yes.
A and C?
That's correct. The order was a little off, but it'll do for now. All right. And now why don't you tell me a little bit about your background?
So this is the part that's not clear in the document. So Bree, if you want to
Yeah.
open up the background file and
Okay.
Yes.
Show me the backgrounds. Sorry, everything takes a second to load on my phone. So it's just like,
yeah. You'll see me kind of looking off to one side a bit. That's where I got my second monitor going, okay, I need to read everything.
I would like to be a cult leader.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, I love you. So I understand you are the leader of a fringe religious organization.
Yes. We started it. The family started it a bit ago. Some friends happened to come by one of my, just little huddles, I guess, at the college campus. And they really saw something in me and kind of just talked me up into speaking a little bit more often in public. And the more I spoke, the more people just felt really good, I guess. Yeah.
And then there was another, and I believe the second huddle was at the back of a Ralph's, correct?
Yeah, when you're in college, when you're that young, it's really hard to get any place to stay, really. But the employees at Ralph's were just so kind to us. They really did a great job. They didn't have chairs, of course, for us, really, but they let us use some of just all of their leftover plastic bags, and we kind of just put those on the ground. And it was a little noisy. It was very windy, so the crinkling kind of it created this nice like susurrus under me speaking. But that was really nice. I thought that was a really good move on their part.
Interesting. One would not expect the sound of rustling plastic bags as a good background music for religious purposes, but when in Rome, I guess, or
Oh, it can
LA.
be very, very calming, I find. At least my audience thought so.
I will take your word for it. All right. Well, thank you for that. I'll be moving on in a moment. I'm going to ask you some questions about cooperation and collaboration.
Okay.
These will require you to form teams to take on specific tasks and consider group dynamics. If you're a human, well, you have nothing to fear.
Makes sense.
Please remain calm. Do not attempt to leave the room. This will all be over soon. 5 minutes starts now.
Okay, that was really distracting, but awesome. So you're a fan of Marvel, right? How would the Avengers adapt if they replaced Iron Man with you?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a really good question. I don't necessarily have the tech, obviously. He's really quite good at all the tech stuff. I don't really have the talking suit or the robots, but I really think that I can be a fairly good motivational speaker, I think. I really know how to get people together and to unite them under a very specific cause, I would think.
4 minutes remain.
Yeah, I would say that.
Hmm. This, I'm sure, relates absolutely not at all to your current activities. You're planning to rob a casino. Which of your friends do you want on your crew?
Let's see. I would think Maggie, she's sort of I want to say muscle, because that's a violent term, but I would say the convincer of the group for sure. I would say Genova. She has a great name, I think. Really just could certain atmosphere when you go into a room. And Alana, I think, she's very talented in a lot of ways, but especially I think when
3
it comes to picking,
minutes remain.
uh, especially picking locks.
So take that same group.
Okay.
What if you were trying to rob a zoo?
Like how would we all be able to kind of carry it through?
Would you make any changes depending on the scenario location?
No, I think you need someone convincing to, I imagine we want to steal a bowl because, the horns, obviously. So we need that. Picking locks, very, very good. And I just think Genova is neat. I just think that she's great.
2 minutes remain.
I just think they're such a great group.
What would be different the third time that you would pull off this sort of heist as opposed to the first?
I think that at the third time, I would feel a bit more comfortable, a bit more experienced. You see, when this first started out, I think I really depended upon, just Genova's guileless nature. That's a term. Just her entire nature and her whole being. She's very just calming when you're around her. I think to this day I don't really have that particular trait down, but I think I really wake up a crowd. So I think that I would carry some of that into this. I'm more charismatic,
1
more
minute.
used to all of this.
And in what situations does your family rely on you? Feel free to interpret that how you wish, considering I know you call your organization the family.
I think it's more so about the people that I pull around
30
me
seconds.
that they manage to sort of inspire others with. So I tell one person something, they inspire the next group. It's more so about the kind of people that you surround yourself with, and it is actually about you. In which case, the people around me are just absolutely astounding. They're all so vivid, have such
10,
vivid backgrounds.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Investigator, please make your final determination.
I'm going to ask you one final question.
Okay.
If you are a robot, this is your final chance to perform any penalties, go through any drives you might have. If you're a violent robot, you're unable to complete them, you should visibly malfunction as a strain causing a failure cascade in the robot brain, or if you're not able to fulfill any other penalties. If you're human, you may answer this question however you like. What are you like when you're alone?
You see, I'm never really alone, I would think now. I just have too many of the family members around me that I don't think I would ever really be alone. Yeah, I would say that doesn't really matter to me, you know?
I'm going to say robot, if only because cult leaders are usually charismatic to the point where they are also a little egotistical, and you spend far too little time talking about yourself.
So I was trying to figure it out because I wasn't sure if I got you or not, because I was trying to do the last minute. I'm a violent robot at that.
Mm-hmm. So basically, if it gets down to that final question and you haven't really completed those drives and haven't actually killed the investigator, you technically lose.
I was trying to figure out if I completed it or not, but it felt so, because the last question was like, what was it? People, what if you were like, what do people take away from your doctrine? And I was trying, one of the prompts was like, talk about other people, not yourself. So I was trying to be like, the people I bring in are so great. And that was the one that I had left on my list. And then I was like, oh, does that count though? I don't know if it counts. And so I just let it slide because I was still like,
Yeah, so if you catch your final, if you catch the final drive that you need to do, and then you wait 10 seconds, you can be like, and now you're dead.
I don't know. I was worried that I wouldn't like it wouldn't count because I had to be like, the people I bring in, but then I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to be like, oh, I think I got it. Oh, I technically got it. Oh, that was the
what was the
I
drive?
wouldn't believe.
No, go ahead. We were just going to talk about like whether it would have counted or not. But so you like had one last thing to do, and you
that
like
was my last one.
You couldn't find a way to work it in the final question.
So for me, it was 2 times when describing what a group does, fail to mention yourself. And 3 times, which I did that for when you're talking about the heist. I was like, do not talk about what you're going to do in the heist. And then 3 times mention someone who was more qualified than you to perform a task. And that was the Iron Man. That was the person I talked about who was really what's it called? Charismatic in a different way, something like that. Um, oh, you know, I think I had it mixed up, and I thought it was 2 and 3, and it was 3 and 2. So I think I thought I had to do a third time where I mentioned a group.
Oh
That's what got me, because I did
no.
the other 3 because it was those 2, and then it was the Ralph's workers where I was like, they brought in the plastic bags for us to sit on. They're so innovative.
So that good news in the sense that like you didn't actually it wasn't like you had it and you missed it, because the pre-timer stuff doesn't count towards drives.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the Ralph's discussion, I think, was at the top when you were talking about like being a cult leader in that process. That was one where I was like, here they go. Improvisers are improvising. Like we're getting real deep on this card before the round starts.
Yeah, no. And you know, like for me, that's like kind of part of it. And then also
totally.
Yeah, I mean, so that's something that, you know, the investigator could do, especially if they're, you know, fairly experienced role players, you know, basically feed the other person different opportunities to really kind of expound on that and help establish the character. Yeah. And like that's like a standard like improv technique, and that could really, you know, deepen the role play aspect of the game. And I know like not everybody's going to be into that, but that was something that I did. And like the minute Bria said huddle, I'm like, okay, I need to throw in the Night Vale reference in here at the back of the Ralphs. I had to.
Well, this has been extremely helpful for me. I feel like I have such a clear vision of like what to do to update this document. Thank you all so much for helping me with this. Like this was great.
That's the best thing. Like knowing exactly what you need to do, like right when you go in. Like I'm very glad that we were able to help with that.
Change the numbers from bad numbers to good numbers.
Math is hard.
Mm-hmm.
So is pagination.
Yeah.
Right.
Darn, I was so close. I'm still just gonna be like, ugh. I think that's such a good feeling though, just to be like I almost had it. Like that's what a good game kind of like does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was convinced you were human.
Oh yeah.
I was convinced I would have gotten it wrong.
I have dealt with enough charismatic people who have put together cults of personalities and various social groups before that I know how to identify that sort of thing. Like, so yay, drawing on trauma.
Let's see. Anything else you wanted to check in with Tommy, or I think we're like close to a wrap at the moment. But I just want to double check, see if there's anything else you wanted from this playtest.
No, I mean, this was great. I if anyone has any lingering questions, anything where they're like, so wait, how does this function? I would be happy to answer that. And it would be helpful for me to hear those questions, but I feel really good, and anything else is a bonus here.
Yeah. I will say specifically in conjunction with how Ryan likes to run a lot of the sessions, like the vignette style that he's done with a lot of like Purgatory Cafe. This game would actually lend itself really well to that style, and like we could easily do like a Blade Runner variant here and like just go absolutely like buck wild with it. And I think Blood is here for it, judging by that happy noise.
So you're proposing an Inhuman condition that kind of fits within Boardroom Armageddon because we have angels and devils, and therefore neither of them are human. That is what I'm hearing.
I was actually thinking more along the lines of kind of its own separate series. Like basically the Bureau of Identity Compliance is kind of like the organization, and then you have like different guest people come in and you have to determine if they're humans or robots or not. Like,
but also like you could test for fallen that way. Like if you wanted to keep it angel style, you could test for like, did you fall? Let's find out, which I feel like is very nerve-wracking.
Oh God, I didn't want to go around that route with Eligor again. No.
All right, let's go around the Zoom table. I'm going to start off with Tommy. Where can people find you and your work?
I suppose I technically have a Twitter account at Tommy Gents, but my rule these days is don't tweet. Stay off the hell site. So you can sign up to learn more about whatever I'm working on at TommyMaranges.com or opinion.zone will also get you to my website.
All right. Renee, where can people find you on the internet?
I am pretty much everywhere on the internet as Hedgie Cleric. including here on Twitch. And actually on Friday, I will be doing a guest GM spot for Geek Therapeutics, which is a program that basically teaches licensed therapists how to use role play for therapy. We'd all make the joke that, LARP is not therapy, but in the hands of a licensed professional, it can be. And then on Saturday, I am hosting a Stitch and Bitch on my channel from 4:30 to 6:30 because guest craziness, because I usually do a Stitch and Bitch interview with game designers and other folks, but guest scheduling kind of went a little crazy. So I'm just inviting folks who I can. So it'll be like, it's a Stitch and Bitch version of Afters.
Bria, what can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
Yeah, so my name is Bria Nicole. I run a D&D podcast set in the 1970s about an apocalypse that may or may not have happened. It's called Season of the Funk. It's available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. We're releasing episode 1 with like a slightly different cut, and we release every Sunday of the last month. So if it's any more impetus, the first arc is about a weird version of Las Vegas filled with fungal plants that eat you. So have fun. Hope that entices you. And then otherwise, I might be making more content soon, but I also work at Tender Claws as a narrative designer. So I'll be releasing work with them later on this year. Really looking forward to it. And just doubling what Renee said about therapists and D&D, because one of my good friends is a therapy grad major and she makes me cry on the regular in D&D. So yeah.
Case, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
Yeah, people can find me on the internet anywhere by searching my last name, Poisal, at apoisal on Twitter, and patreon.com/poisal, where I write some stuff. I write gaming stuff and about games, and I'm working on moving things over to a new site for like regular public dissemination, which will be launching soon, called Best Case Scenario, because I love puns. And yeah, you can find me all over the internet doing that sort of stuff. You can find my work in Kids on Bikes, Strange Adventures Volume 2, was the last thing that I was published in. And to double up on the D&D as therapy, that's what I am finishing my degree in, is in communications, is using social gaming environments to teach social skills and communication skills to people with social anxieties and disabilities. So
what you're saying is I need to introduce you to these folks after the stream is over.
sounds like a good connection to have. Right.
Blythe, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
Yeah, so I've been Blythe. You can find me across Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, all the things under Blythe Call It 93. That's BLYTHEKALA 93. Currently, every other Monday, I'm over on Happy Jack's RPG playing a nerdy witch girl, which I know this all sounds really out of type, who might have to kill a fairy king she was supposed to marry. So join us on Happy Jack's RPG and find out more about that Mondays at 7:30. On Saturdays, I'm currently part of a Knights Black Agents game at 10 a.m. to 2. I play a white woman with a podcast. And she's really
Oh no.
Oh, wow.
Oh no.
And she's really effective at solving crimes. Because she runs a crime podcast.
This is
Okay.
some she wrote bullshit right here. I love it.
Excellent.
Hashtag Jessica Fletcher.
Very good.
I am your host, Ryan Omega. You will see me often here on live action roleplay, things that are coming up. So I am having open Zoom auditions with director Maxwell Colburn when we are doing Breaking Bard, Much Ado About Nothing. It's going to be open Zoom auditions for someone who is a real life dramaturge, but also Breaking Bard is about performing the original Shakespeare as well as the 2021 adaptation and seeing what that's like. I will have more details on my own thing that I'm going to be adapting, Midsummer Night's Dream. or also known as Midsummer Night's Hotel and Casino in Vegas, is my adaptation. But that will both of those will happen in August. Much Ado will be earlier in August. Midsummer will be later in August. That's the current plan. You can also find me on the React channel, also reacting to more things. They've been bringing me on to react to more things and eat more food. Bob's Burgers episode is probably my favorite because you saw me freak out. Um, and I'm also writing for Apotheosis Studios, the Bard book, Battle of the Bards, with Satine Phoenix and Jameson Stone. So I'm one of the contributing writers for that, and there's also a lot more that is coming out. So stay tuned to that. And you can find me on Twitter under Ryan OMGA. All right. Thank you so much for joining us for today. Let's see if we can find someone to raid. Let's see. I kind of want. Let's see who's around.
I was about to say, if you don't have any ideas, I do have a suggestion.
Oh, actually, I know who we can raid. We can raid our friends at Hyper RPG. They've been so good about bringing me on to do their show Purgatory Cafe to all of their viewers. So like let's go ahead and raid them. So let me just go do the